Do real estate agents need CPAs? That's a good question. I'm going to answer it for you. But before I do, I want to let you know that yes, I do currently use a CPA, and I'm going to tell you how I went from a solo agent to not using a CPA to running a team and running a brokerage and using a CPA with bookkeeping. And I'm going to tell you what made me decide to go ahead and actually incorporate a CPA, how it changed my business, and the expenses involved. So go ahead and sit back and stay tuned because I'm going to get this thing going. So my name is Ronnie George, and I've been selling real estate for like 14 years now. I'm out here outside, little guys running around. I figured I'd answer this question because it's tax time coming up, and I'm actually getting a couple of people that message me asking, what CPA I use and what software I use and stuff like that. So I kind of started answering the question. So I figured I'd answer the question on here too. So as a solo agent, I didn't have a CPA. It was just me because I wasn't really making a ton of money. But once I started making money and I started making around 50, 75 to 100,000 a year, I incorporated a CPA because there were a lot more expenses. And I didn't like the fact of having to save up for all kind of money for taxes and just giving that away. So I incorporated a CPA in 2015. And the first thing they had me do was to set up an LLC. So I was basically getting paid as, just Ronnie George, just my name. But then I started an LLC and called it the George Group, and basically kind of went from there. So then every time I would receive a check from my broker, they would just write it out to the name of the business instead of to me, right? So the reason of that is because then I positioned myself as an employee of the George Group. So all the money would go to the George Group, and then I would take disbursements. And I would basically pay myself from the George Group. And then also I would, buy things using the business account, like my advertising, my car, my, fuel, like all kind of different stuff when it comes to internet, cell phone bills, all that stuff like that, because those are business deductions. So that was one of the smartest things that they set up to kind of shield me with like liabilities, because with your LLC, you have a lot more advantages. Now, so many things have probably changed, so I might be, not totally 100% accurate on this, so definitely check with your CPA. But I want to advise you that, yes, it's definitely a good thing to do, as a broker and as an individual who actually has done it themselves. And the good thing is you can then actually start having business tax returns to where if you ever want to apply for a line of credit, you want to apply for a credit card, or you want to apply for anything, you can then show that you've been running a business, and it could be your name, It could be, Jane Smith, LLC. And then that way you're showing that you as an individual are the sole proprietor and owner of, your company. And you can actually get lines of credit and different things like that specifically with your business. So I'm hoping that's making sense. So once I started doing this, I did it for a couple years. I was able to buy a house with, just using my real estate income, because I was showing that I was running a business for 2 years, and they take my personal income and my business income into account, and they look over all that stuff, right? So first thing, they incorporated me, they set me up with the state, did an LLC, and then started receiving, monthly payments from there. Then the next thing they did, then they got me on payroll. So I essentially have a payroll to where I pay myself monthly. I've increased it. It used to only be like $500 every 2 weeks. Now we're doing $2,000 every 2 weeks. And so that way, Ronnie George actually gets a W-2 from the George Group. So then therefore, I can show even more income when it comes time for your W-2s, when it comes time to getting approved. These are all things that you need to think about as you continue forward in your career, instead of just being a solo agent. It doesn't look as good. You're going to look a lot more appealing to a bank if you have a business structure set up this way. And it helps with taxes, like a lot, significantly large amount, because you're even able to deduct your health insurance as a business expense under an LLC. And again, this is for Louisiana. So I guess, every state might be a little bit different. So then that way too, once they kind of incorporated that and I started paying myself on payroll, they also did my books. So you know how some people will, keep all their receipts, keep all their invoices and all those different things like that. I don't have to do that because someone logs into my bank account every single month. And if they don't, I just send them the statements and they go through all of the bank statements for business, personal, everything. And they individually itemize every single expense. And then they sit there and associate things to business expenses, to personal expenses, and do all that. And then they send me a P&L. So I have a profit and loss that they send out every month. Or if they don't, all I have to do is request it and they can make one and send it my way. And then they send a balance sheet out to where I can see, where everything sits, what's the net income, expenses, all that stuff, and then I can look year over year of the progressive growth. I can show this stuff to businesses if I want to get different loans. I can show all that. So that's why it's good to get started now instead of later, especially if you plan on being in real estate for a while, So not only that, I'm trying to think of what else. So I don't have to do my books. They kind of consult me when it comes to, all right, do this, don't spend money on that, or yeah, you should apply more toward taxes on here. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's just a huge benefit. The huge benefit is really just the freeing amount of time that I have, because I don't have to worry about tax time. Like I just basically just focus on what I need to focus on, because I know I have a team of people that are taking care of, my figures. And I've been with this person, like I said, for, since 2015. So they're very reliable. So yeah, so that's pretty good stuff when it comes to that. And I was going to say one other thing, but I guess I totally forgot. Let me know if you have any questions on that below, or if anybody has any contradictory information or something to add to that, please comment it below. I'd love to provide more value on the subject, because yeah, it's a question that a lot of people wonder about. Oh, monthly expense. So it started out because I had less accounts and I wasn't married at the time, so it was just my information. I'm trying to think, it was only like, I don't know, like $150. $175, something like that a month that I would pay for bookkeeping. So they would essentially do my books for that amount. And then I would pay the CPA separately at the end of the year to do the taxes, right? And then as I've gotten more accounts and more expense accounts and, rental properties, and I got married, and then she had different checking accounts, they've had to operate my, 7, 8 different accounts, different credit cards and different things like that. So it's a lot more labor intensive, right? So that's increased over the years. And then of course, every year that increases too, just because, inflation and costs go up. So right now, I think it's $400 a month for everything. And that same concept, they run all the books. I don't have to worry about anything. And then I have a payroll company that's set up to where they basically reach out every 2 weeks, say, hey, do you have any employees on the books? What's their hours? Do we need to pay them? And then I just send them their hours and then they pay them, or I basically tell them my hours or what I want them to pay me every 2 weeks. And then they just say, okay. And then they run it. And then I basically charge myself. So then all my taxes are taken care of, all of that stuff. So it's really, really useful. I'm hoping you're seeing the benefit of a CPA, especially if you're considering one. And you really only need to really consider one if you're doing like, a good amount of money, 7, 8 or 70, 80, 90, $100,000 a year. If you're getting serious with real estate and getting expenses and taxes are getting questionable, it's really time to look into it. I guarantee you are going to save a ton of time and a ton of, stress and anxiety and all that stuff, especially comes tax time. You're not going to have to worry about that stuff. They'll randomly email you with like, hey, who's this person? Or hey, can I get a W-9 or a W-4? And they'll just randomly request different things and you just send it to them and they just do all the heavy lifting. So that, as a real estate agent and a broker and a business owner, like, it's so freeing. So yes, look into getting a CPA. Don't try and learn all the stuff and do it yourself, because that's just you being cheap and just, you trying to figure it out and do it yourself. Hire a professional, get someone to do the books for you. get someone who's good. And then I guarantee you, you're going to see the amount of time that you freed up and the energy that you freed up to be able to do more business just by doing that. So I hope that's insightful. I hope it's helpful. This tax season has been an interesting year for 2020. So hopefully a lot of y'all real estate agents made a lot of money this year. So a good CPA will definitely hook you up and set yourself up with an LLC or an incorporated and start paying yourself. I guarantee you when it comes time to buying a home, a lender's going to love to look at that stuff because you are running a business. You are not just an individual. Treat yourself like a business. If you're an independent contractor, which you are, set yourself up in a LLC, get serious about your business. And then that way, when you cross the threshold and you're like, oh, holy crap, my business did $1 million this year. I brought in this much money, so you can see your progressive growth and just get serious about your business. So I hope that's helped. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your insight. Have a good one.